A guy driving a Kia pulls up at a stoplight next to a Rolls-Royce. The driver of the Kia rolls down his window and shouts to the driver of the Rolls, "Hey, buddy, that's a nice car. You got Wi-Fi in your Rolls?" "I've got Wi-Fi in my Kia." The driver of the Rolls looks over and says simply, "Yes, I have Wi-Fi." The driver of the Kia says, "Cool. Hey, you got a fridge in there too?" "I've got a fridge in the back seat of my Kia." The driver of the Rolls, looking annoyed, says, "Yes, I have a refrigerator." The driver of the Kia says, "That's great, man. Hey, you got a TV in there too?" "You know, I got a TV in the back seat of my Kia." The driver of the Rolls, looking very annoyed by now, says, "Yes, I have a television. A Rolls-Royce is the finest luxury car in the world." The driver of the Kia says, "That's a very cool car. Hey, you got a bed in there too?" "I got a bed in the back of my Kia." Upset that he did not have a bed, the driver of the Rolls-Royce sped away. He went straight to the dealer, where he promptly ordered that a bed be installed in the back of the Rolls. The next morning, the driver of the Rolls picked up his car. The bed looked superb, complete with silk sheets and brass trim. It was clearly a bed fit for a Rolls-Royce. So, the driver of the Rolls drove around all day looking for the Kia. Finally, late that night, he finds the Kia parked, with all the windows fogged up from the inside. The driver of the Rolls gets out of his car and knocks on the Kia's window. At first there is no answer, then the owner sticks his head out, soaking wet. "I now have a bed in the back of my Rolls-Royce," the driver of the Rolls said arrogantly. The driver of the Kia says, "You got me out of the shower to tell me that." On the way to a conference, a revered scientist is talking to his chauffeur. The driver asks him, "Boss, I've driven you around the country for over 10 years. I've listened to your talks hundreds of times. I am pretty sure I know everything by heart now. Would you like to make a bet?" "What kind of bet?" "We look alike. You've never talked in this city. I'd bet I could do the talk instead of you without anybody noticing. And if I succeed, you'll pay me double for the trip. If I don't, this one's for free." Bored and with nothing better to do, the scientist ends up agreeing, believing the chauffeur didn't stand a chance. They switch clothes at a rest stop, and once they arrive, the driver goes to the stand while the scientist sits in the audience. Miraculously, the chauffeur delivers the talk in an almost perfect way. No one seems to notice. At the end, a mic is passed around through the audience for some questions, and the driver answers them all correctly, until a young professor poses a question he has never heard before. He has no idea what the answer is. He freezes before scratching his head, taking a deep breath and saying, "Dear colleague, I don't mean to offend you, but that question is so insultingly easy that I will let my chauffeur in the audience answer it for me." Police pulls over a car driving 15 miles per hour in a 70 miles per hour speed zone. It was an older woman driving. He asks her why she was driving slow. She says, "I saw a sign that said I-15, so I thought the speed limit was 15 miles per hour. "Officer, that is the sign for Interstate 15. The speed limit is 70 mph on this road." Then he notices 3 other older ladies in the back seat whose faces were white as a sheet. He asks the driver what's wrong. Her, "Oh, we just came off I-215. An older man was driving his new Mercedes at 100 miles per hour when he noticed a police car chasing him in the rearview mirror. He accelerated to 125 and then 155 miles per hour. Suddenly, he thought to himself, "I've outgrown this." He slowed down, pulled over to the side of the road, and waited for the police car to catch up. The traffic officer approached him, looked at his watch, and said, Sir, my shift ends in 10 minutes, it's Friday, and I'm about to start my weekend. If you give me a reason for your speeding that I've never heard before, I'll let you go in peace. The man looked at the officer seriously and replied, Years ago, my wife left me and ran off with a police officer. When I saw you chasing me, I thought you were bringing her back. The officer turned around and said, Have a nice day, sir. Walter had been a track switcher on the railway line that ran past his tiny English village for most of his life. All day long he sat in his little hut and switched the points as trains approached. One day he got it into his head that it was time to move up in the world, so he wrote to British Rail and asked to be considered for a promotion. He was invited to come to head office in London and speak to a manager. After the usual job interview stuff, the manager decided to test Walter's knowledge and decision-making abilities. Now Walter, imagine you're in your hut, and you see that two trains are approaching each other head-on. What do you do? Oh, that's easy. I give one a stop signal, give the other one a go-slow signal, then I switch the points to put one into the siding while the other passes. Okay. But on this day there's a power failure, and the signal lights aren't working. What do you do? I'll just get out my emergency flags and set those up, then switch the points by hand. Oh, but it's a foggy morning and the flags won't be visible. That's fine, I'll just use my flares instead. But when you go to fetch your flares, you find that they've been stolen. Oh, in that case I'd run home and fetch my kids. What? Why? They've never seen a train crash before. Three blondes are sitting by the side of a river holding fishing poles with the lines in the water. A game warden comes up behind them, taps them on the shoulder and says, Excuse me, ladies, I'd like to see your fishing licenses. We don't have any, replied the first blonde. Well, if you're going to fish, you need fishing licenses, said the game warden. But officer, replied the second blonde, we aren't fishing. We all have magnets at the end of our lines and we're collecting debris off the bottom of the river. The game warden lifted up all the lines and, sure enough, there were horseshoe magnets tied on the end of each line. Well, I know of no law against it, said the game warden. Take all the debris you want. And with that, he left. As soon as the game warden was out of sight, the three blondes started laughing hysterically. What a d****** cop, the second blonde said to the other two. Doesn't he know that there are steelhead trout in this river? A man and woman are going at it when they hear a car out front. The woman quickly says, Hurry, out the window, it's my husband. Frightened, the man grabs his jocks and starts trying to get them on whilst climbing out the window. Suddenly, he turns around and states, Hang on, I'm your husband. Why would you do that to me? To which she responds, Why did you try to run? A blonde went to the emergency room with the tip of her left index finger blown off. How did this happen? The doctor asked. Well, I was trying to commit suicide, the blonde replied. Trying to commit suicide by shooting your finger? No, silly. First I put the gun to my chest and I thought, I just paid $6,000 for these. Then I put it in my mouth and I thought, I just paid $4,000 to get my teeth fixed. So then I put the gun in my ear and I thought, this is going to make a loud noise. So I put my finger in my ear before I pulled the trigger. A lawyer is sitting in his parked BMW when a tow truck crashes into the car. The crash takes car door clean off and the driver speeds away. The lawyer immediately signals a cop and begins ranting about how much the damage to his car is going to cost. The cop replies, You lawyers are so materialistic. All you care about is money. the lawyer says. How dare you call me materialistic? The cop replies, well, you've been so concerned about your car that you didn't notice that your arm is missing. The lawyer screams, F you, my Rolex. There was a woman who wanted to repaint her house, so she called the contractor and set an appointment to meet with him. When the contractor came to her house, they did a walkthrough and he asked her what colors she would like. They came to the living room and she told him that she would like a nice, warm cream color. The contractor wrote something down on his pad, then walked to the window and yelled, green side up. The lady is a little confused, but doesn't say anything, and they continue to the dining room where she tells him, I would like a nice warm white in here, nothing stark. The contractor writes something down on his pad, then walks to the window and again yells, green side up. The lady is really confused now but still does not say anything. They continue to her bedroom and she says, I would like a nice, cool, relaxing blue in here. The contractor writes something on his pad and again walks to the window and yells, green side up. The woman is now totally perplexed and says to the contractor, 3 times I have told you the color that I want, and you write something on your pad, then you walk to the window and yell green side up. What is going on? The contractor replies, you see, I have 4 blondes laying sod across the street. John's car broke down in the middle of a quiet road at night. He decided to hitchhike. After waiting for a while, a car stopped next to him. He jumped aboard. The speed of the car was slow and steady. Suddenly John noticed to his shock that the driver's seat was empty. No one was driving the car. John was not frightened by the speed of the car, but by the fact that it had no driver. When the moment came, he jumped out of the car and ran for his life. After a few kilometers, John arrived at the gas station. He went inside and bought himself a drink. 2 men arrived at the gas station. One of them pointed at John and said, Look, Jack, that's the idiot who jumped into our car while we were pushing it. A blonde was visiting Washington, D.C. for the first time. She wanted to see the Capitol building. Unfortunately, she couldn't find it, so she asked a police officer for directions. Excuse me, officer, how do I get to the Capitol building? The officer replied, Wait here at this bus stop for the number 54 bus. It'll take you right there. She thanked the officer, and he drives off. 3 hours later the police officer returned to the same area and, sure enough, the blonde is still waiting at the same bus stop. The officer got out of his car and said, Excuse me, but to get to the Capitol building, I said to wait here for the number 54 bus. That was 3 hours ago. Why are you still waiting? The blonde replied, Don't worry, officer, it won't be long now. The 45th bus just went by. Hey there. I put a lot of effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy. Thank you.